Hi everyone, I'm Shanali from Behind Me Media. So, how many of y'all have watched this movie? I'm a huge Disney fan. I don't know how many of y'all are, but Snow White used to be one of my favorites. And who has not? Even me. I have been casted for Snow White in my school plays and whatnot. So, today, we're diving into the recent controversy surrounding Snow White, Disney's live-action remake that's been stirring up a lot of chatter. Now, when it comes to Snow White, most people are used to the iconic, sweet voice and the classic story of falling in love with the prince. But when this 2025 version hit theaters, things didn't go exactly as planned. So it's been getting pretty low ratings, not pretty low ratings, but very low ratings, and most of the backlash. So it's been unfairly directed at the film's lead, Rachel Zegler. But is it fair? So let's get into it. So Rachel Zegler, who you might know from her breakout role in West Side Story, was cast as Snow White in this new adaptation. And let me tell you, the internet was on fire the moment she was announced. I'm pretty sure y'all would also have remembered this. For some, her casting as a Latina Snow White was a bold and exciting move. It reflected Disney's commitment to diversity and inclusivity, which fans had been asking for a while. But as always, with big changes, there was also a lot of criticism. The critics didn't stop at just, the casting. Rachel has been super vocal about her experience with the original Snow White growing up, and honestly, some of her comments opened the door to a lot of backlash. She mentioned in an interview how the original version of Snow White traumatized her as a kid, calling out the stereotypical portrayal of Snow White as a passive, helpless character. And wow, did that spark some serious outrage online. Well, yeah, but it didn't help that she referred to the original Snow White's prince as a stalker in one of the interviews.
I know that you've told me before that your version of Snow White is different and it's more of a 2022 version of Snow White. What did you mean by that?
I mean, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
Super weird.
So we didn't do that this time.
Now, to be clear, it was a metaphor about how Snow White's love for the prince seemed overly obsessed. He doesn't even know who she is, and she's completely in love with him just from a picture. Well, I get it. It's a bit problematic in today's standards, but I mean, calling it stalker-ish didn't exactly win her any fans amongst the die-hard Snow White lovers, who felt like she was disrespecting the character's legacy. And on top of that, Disney made some pretty big changes in the Snow White character and the story itself. They swapped out Snow White's traditional, sweet, almost childlike voice for something much more powerful and bold. It's a nice touch for modern sensibilities, but it didn't sit well with some people who were expecting that classic theatrical Snow White we all know and love. And let's not even get started on how completely reworked the storyline was. The whole idea of Snow White dreaming of falling in love with a prince, that was central to the original film. But this new version shifted the focus to Snow White's personal growth and empowerment. Again, a totally valid modern take, but it didn't necessarily sit well with the fans who were hoping for that nostalgic story. So, Disney tried to blend the old with the new. Well, thanks, Sharpay, but it felt a lot of people were feeling like they were watching a completely different story. Speaking of trying to blend the old with the new, one of the most controversial moves Disney made was their decision to use CGI and AI for the Seven Dwarfs instead of casting real short actors. I mean, this one really stirred up some emotions, and it's no surprise when you think about the industry's long-standing issues with representation of people with disabilities. People were rightfully questioning why Disney didn't cast actual short actors like Peter Dinklage or even Danny Woodburn, who have plenty of experience in the industry. Well, the decision to use AI to create these characters instead left many fans feeling like Disney was missing a huge opportunity for authenticity and inclusivity. Sure, they cast a Colombian actress as Snow White, but why not extend that same level of thoughtfulness to the dwarves? And here's where the conversation about Rachel Zegler really takes a turn. Beyond her comments and the character changes, people started taking issue with her personality, especially her approach to promoting the film. She uploaded a video to social media where she said, "People will wait in line to see me." Now, you can imagine how that went over.
Everyone who hates when I win, the winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her. And I can only hope that despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
People were furious. It almost felt like she was making a whole movie about herself. There were accusations that Rachel was thinking too much about her own celebrity status and not enough about the parents, the kids, and Snow White lovers who were coming to the movie for that sense of nostalgia. They wanted the magic of the old Snow White, the character they grew up with, and suddenly it felt like this was all about Rachel Zegler and her personal brand. People felt like she wasn't considering that what the movie meant to the audience, who have adored the classic for decades. And here's the thing. Is this fair though? It's hard to say. On one hand, yes, she was promoting the movie and using social media to get attention, like most stars do. But on the other hand, there's something about Snow White's legacy that makes people feel incredibly protective. So when it feels like someone's shifting the focus away from the story and into themselves, it can be a tough pill to swallow. It's also worth mentioning that Zegler's outspokenness in some ways seemed to have become a focal point of all the criticism. And this is something that happens a lot in today's media. When a star becomes the face of the film, they often end up taking the brunt of any backlash, regardless of whether it's deserved. So in reality, there's a team of people responsible for the direction, the writing, the casting, the decision, and all of it. But for some reason, Rachel Zegler became the symbol of everything people disliked about the movie. And look, we're not saying that Rachel Zegler is entirely blameless. She did make some questionable comments, and maybe her social media posts could have been a little more mindful of the fan base. But is it fair to put the weight on this movie's failures entirely on her shoulders? When you take a step back and look at the bigger picture, the story changes. The AI dwarves, the mixed reactions to the new Snow White, it feels like a lot of the blame is being placed on her unfairly. And that's something we really need to think about. Is this the new reality for actors in today's media landscape? Is it just easy to blame the star when the movie doesn't hit the mark, even when they're not the ones making the big decisions? Are we as audience holding Zegler accountable for these that go beyond her control? So it's easy to take out frustrations on one person, but sometimes the problem is more complicated than just a single actor's performance or behavior. It's about how the whole production came together, or in this case, didn't come together the way fans hoped. So as much as people want to call out Zegler, it's important to remember that movies, especially big Disney remakes, are never the result of one person's work. So to wrap it up, we are left with the question: is the criticism Rachel Zegler faced fair? It's hard to say, definitely, but what's clear is that it's an easy scapegoat situation when it comes to a film that didn't meet audience expectations. Sure, she could have been more mindful, but is that really why Snow White flopped? Or is it a mix of bigger issues, from storytelling changes to CGI dwarves? Ultimately, I think it's about balance. Criticism is important, but it's crucial to remember that the full content. So next time you're scrolling through Twitter or reading a review, take a moment to think about the bigger picture. Is it just one person's fault, or is there a lot more going on? Well, thanks for listening. We'll be back with another topic of discussion. Drop down on the comments about what you think as well. See you. Have a great day.